Thank you, Madam Secretary, for visiting with us today. Secretary Salazar, your predecessor, testified before this committee that when asked, has there ever been a human harmed or certainly killed by hydraulic fracturing or horizontal drilling, or even a groundwater contamination thereof, a documented case of either? He said no. Do you agree with Secretary Salazar?
I've not heard of any deaths associated with hydraulic fracturing. I will tell you, having done a large frac job myself, that there's certainly surface risks, so I can't say that hasn't ever happened at the surface. But,
right. I'm talking about documented cases, something that would be evident to anyone. And with respect to groundwater contamination, do you also agree with Secretary Salazar that there's not been a documented case of that as well?
I'm not aware of documented cases. I will say that bad cement jobs cause communication between reservoirs that are exacerbated by fracs, and so having a wellbore integrity is absolutely essential.
Sure.
Having a good frac and the regulations help provide for that.
And as someone who's deep in the technology of this, and you're aware that we've been fracturing for 60 years or so, it seems amazing to many of us that we have been doing something which has actually improved in terms of its technology over the years. What we're doing today is very much better than we did 30 years ago. And of course now we have horizontal drilling. And we have state regulations, and we don't have any documented case of any serious problem. So obviously wellbore integrity and all of those important issues are being dealt with. So the question comes to, then why do we need to put down an entire layer of regulation from BLM and also EPA if we go to private lands? Why do we need to do that when there appears to be no problem?
Congressman, the states vary in their ability and understanding of hydraulic fracturing in the oil and gas business. As you pointed out, technologies have moved us. Horizontal drilling, multiple fractures within a reservoir, much higher pressures than we've seen before. And these are things where minimum acceptable standards need to be out there, and part of my job is to make sure that we're watching over the federal estate effectively. And so if the state standards meet or exceed the federal standards, we will be going with the state or tribal standards. In many cases, the standards don't exist or are very old within states, and so we felt that they needed to be modernized on federal lands. Okay.
Now, shifting the subject a little bit here. One of the things that I'm getting a lot of complaints about from my district, the 4th District of Louisiana, around Shreveport, Louisiana, the Haynesville Shale, which is one of the top natural gas plays, is that on federal land, it takes up to a year to get a permit. It's costly, ridden with bureaucracy, paperwork. On the other hand, they can get a permit in 3 days on private land, and boom, they're off and going. And so adding even more regulations on federal land obviously is going to make that disparity worse. You know, the President boasts that under his administration, oil and gas production has gone up. And that's technically true. Unfortunately, production on federal lands and offshore has actually gone down. So it's the private sector that's been out of reach of this administration that is causing this very positive shift. And so there is a definite disparity between what's happening on federal and offshore and what's happening on private lands. It's really to the credit of the private sector that we're having such success. So my question is, again, why do we want to add even more regulations that are going to create even more bureaucracy and create more problems when things are doing so well? Do we, in fact, lack problems in the federal government and other issues that we need to deal with, that we've got to go after things that we really haven't established there's really a problem for?